The NTO was a natural consequence of the fact that I designed really a beautiful oscillator about 3 years before. The original one was completely without a standard and had to be adjusted in terms of tuning. For a violinist like I was, it was easy for me to tune things. The only problem with it is that technology advanced and synthesizers like the EMU and Moog started having standard 1 volt per octave oscillators. And the second thing that was clear is that oscillators have to be very stable. There, I put everything I knew about specific different things you could do with an oscillator and put them all in one. So the first things was, of course, it's very stable. The second thing, it had to track. The third thing, it had to, the bells and whistle that I put in was a variable wave shape, which has a wide range. So actually, most of the time, you only use one part of the range because it's such a wide range. The sine output. It has a special form, and actually that specific sine came from the original oscillator that I built. So it's a very strange thing, but it's a remnant of a sound which I liked in the first one, and I managed to shoe it on. But it's part of that oscillator, so it makes the character of the oscillator happen. And you can change it, of course, from that sine to a very strange sawtooth, which is not a really sawtooth, but that's what I meant, is that I put everything I knew about oscillators inside that oscillator. That is, I put some parts of the old oscillator, that funny sine and that kind of variable thing. And I also put a really flat sawtooth and really flat triangle and sine. Serge system, you have modules, right? So you can take this output and put it to a mixer, and then you take, let's say, the sine wave, and you put that into the wave shaper here. Suddenly you have a second sound, and in fact, it's the beginning of composing timbre, is when you use different wave shapes or timbres, you mix them up together, just like it's really very similar to mixing colors, and especially if it's done in stereo space, because you might have you know, in the most direct way, you would put a variable sound here, the wave variable, and then the one that's through the wave shaper or through another, or through the filter on the right side, and you get a different thing. So that's why there are all these outputs. Well, the pulse width must be a pulse width output, which Ralf put in. The sawtooth is the source of all the other wave shapes in this thing. The sawtooth is what determines the time, the actual frequency. The thing about it is that the retrace time is extremely short, so that a lot of problems with sawtooth, logarithmic sawtooth oscillators is that the retrace time is long, and so they get inaccurate at high frequencies. This one is better. From the sawtooth, there's a circuit inside that transforms it into a triangle. And visually, of course, you can see that you can take a sawtooth and geometrically make it into a triangle. From the triangle, which has certain amount, people like the sound of a triangle because it has harmonics. The triangle itself is shaped via a shaping circuit to make it round, and this results into the sine. In the early system, it was even more atomic. In the early system, the stuff that's inside the NTO I made separate. For example, I made in the original system, I had a circuit that would take the sawtooth and transform it into a triangle, but it was outside. This is 1 volt per octave, okay? And this is also 1 volt per octave. Actually, he should have drawn a line between here and here to show that it's the same type of input, except that this one is with Portamento, which allows you to glide from one tone to another. The VC controls the rate of the Portamento. For example, let's say you had the touch keyboard and you have a sequence going, it's going ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Well, you could actually have plug in the voltage from one row into the Portamento VC, and so that some of the notes would have and others wouldn't. And then it had a linear FM. This is a single quadrant FM, meaning that it doesn't go through zero. The best thing to plug into the input of FM is the sine wave of another oscillator, because it's, I think it's you get some of the nicest, mellowest tone. But of course, what FM is it results in a combination of a changing of the timbre, but also it makes complex timbres with a lot of frequencies. Take the sawtooth of one and plug it into the sink of the other, and then this NTO would be synced to the other one. I conceived of using the sawtooth as the syncing. However, I think you can put another way is using the pulse out. So that takes care of the sync. I think it's a very hard sync, so that it does have, it makes a number of effects possible. For example, subharmonic skipping of frequencies and sudden changes. So one of the amazing things about random source is that they improve things. That's not necessarily the case with people who just clone things. That's what's so fantastic about Ralf, is that he also improves things. He actually added a pulse output, which wasn't in the original. He's the only manufacturer that I allowed anyone to build an NTO, because other people have tried, but because of some components were not available, they went to get other components, but they weren't good. And he worked, I'd say, many months on it, maybe even more than a month, to really get the right ingredients, and he succeeded.